Welcome, it's Drew Blazik, Logos and Markets. This is the second video in our advanced mortgage calculations video that we're gonna figure out what if we do, so we just did the basics, we did the amortization in the first video, but what if we did an extra payment in a specific month, an extra payment in a every single month? What if we wanna put that in our model? How much of a return are we saving based on the money that we're putting in? So let's get right to our Excel sheet here. So this is the last where we ended up. And a couple things what I want to show here is that I think I forgot to do the periodic payments. So that's just how many payments per year. And all this stuff here, the data is giving us stuff that we can refer back to. And you remember what I did? I did 4 years, 4 payments per year, a total of 16. And the reason why I did that, so we could see what happens at the end. A couple things that is not correct. If you notice that 0, and we're going to have to adjust that. That 0 is a negative, so it's actually 0.00001. We want that to be perfectly 0. And then also we're going to put extra payments down on it. So let's do this real quick, is that I want to link to the summary page or the model page, which is what if we do an extra payment in a specific month? So let's say you want to do $1,000 in, I'll put it right here. So it's going to link it there. And what we're going to do is I'm going to drag this all the way down. And this gives us the ability to, if I go to the model, I could say, for example, I want to put 300. Well, this is a big loan. You know what? To make this make sense, let's make this a little smaller. Then we can go back to adjust, because I did 4 years, 4 payments. Let's say this is a $20,000 loan. And then we could, now these payments are going to make a little more sense. So we could say we want to put an extra payment in there, and it's all linked. So what we're going to do is we want to know what month this is going to be in. So we're going to do the sequence function. And what we want to do is the same thing we did before. MPER is for rows. Columns is going to be 1. We want to start at 1, and we want to have it go by 1 each time. So that's going to give us our 16. So we could say, okay, now this is quarters, but you could say, okay, in quarter 4, I want to put $300 down and hit enter. And then we go to our amortization and see if this worked. I'm going to go, oh, be careful not to mess it up. If you ever mess it up, you can Control Z. And you see we have a $300 payment. And what it did was it, everything's messed up now, because now first off, we have to link that payment in there. So we're going to do that in a second. But even after we do that, I think we're going to have some negatives down here, and I'll show you what it's going to look like in a second. Next thing I want to do is we want to link, what if we do a specific payment every single month? So I'm going to link that to our model again, and we're going to put that in our extra payment per month. And then what we could say is, oh, what if we put, let's say every single month we're going to put $100 down. All right, so now as you can see, it's kind of messed up. So we're going to do some modeling here. Now, just so you know, we're going to have to make the payment a special equation and the ending balance. I'm not going to show you how I did it, but I will take you into another Excel sheet and show you what I would type in to make this work. I want you to figure out the way how to do it. So let's go to our ending balance, and we have to do the first month or the first quarter and the second in this example, and then we could drag it down. So we're going to say, well, the ending balance is the beginning balance minus the principal, and then what I'm going to put down is also minus that extra payment, if we put an extra payment in the month, also minus the payment we do every single month. And what we're going to do eventually with the 1 down, but I could do it now as well, I'm going to hit function F4, because that $100 is going to be every single month. We want to drag it down and have it go like that. So let's do that again. So we're going to go into this model. We have that if function if we set if it's greater than 0. So I'm going to go negative, and we're going to go to our extra payment, and then minus also if we did a extra payment every single month, and then function F4, and we'll hit enter. And now I could drag that all the way down, and we'll see how this looks. So it corrected a lot of things, but what it did not correct is the payments. Well, you see how it's a negative. We don't want that because we want easy calculations. I want that to say 0 if we paid it off. And I want, so the two things we're going to have to correct here are payments and the ending balance. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a sheet and kind of talk it through. But when we look at payments, and you have to figure out how to do it. So when we look at payments, I want you to think about is what should that payment be? The payment should be, well, we have a specific payment we have to pay every single month, right? Or we might have a payment that, like for example, if we go back to our model, we could see that we're paying $14.15 every single month. And turn my heater on. We're paying $14.15 every single month. However, this month, the 15th, we only owed $8.75. So $14.15 is too much. So we want to do a function. I'm going to give you a clue. We want to do a minimum function that states we either want to do the payment or we want to do what is left. Now, that's not going to 100% get it correct because what do we pay each month? Well, we're going to pay the payment, but if this is less than that, we're going to pay the beginning balance, the remaining of the beginning balance, plus the periodic interest that we owe for that month or that quarter or that whatever our payments are. So this needs to either be the PMT, the payment, or, so it's going to be a minimum function, or the beginning balance plus the interest we would owe. So then you got to think, well, how do you do interest? Well, you know how to do interest from the previous video. So I'm going to solve it. I'm going to hit pause. I don't want to just have you type what I do, but I want you to see if you can do that and get 100% on it. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so I just did the payment, and I want you to understand what I just did was I did a function. Now you have to do it within the if function because we have the if function to make sure we don't go beyond the years that we have selected over here. But what I did was I said I'm either going to choose this payment, $14.50. Now, however, if the beginning balance is less than that, what I want to do is I want to have whatever's minimal, the PMT. I want to do the minimum function. And then you're going to do, so, okay, the beginning balance plus you're going to owe some interest for that month. So you want to put those two together. That would be the payment if it's less than PMT. Okay, so I just want to show you what's going on here because we have to correct the ending balance. And what's going on here is that we have an ending balance because we don't have a dynamic model that stops those extra payments. Since we have extra payments, what's going on here is that it's causing another negative 100. That's that $100. And then it carries it over to this, but it doesn't go beyond. It doesn't go beyond the 16th payment. So let's change it, show you how this can affect things. Let's say we're doing $400 extra per payment. And see how that messes it up? That $400 is there every single payment. And then what it does the periodic interest. We're doing interest off a negative, and it's all messed up. So next, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to correct the ending balance. Okay? So I'm going to give you a clue, and want you to figure this out. This is a little more difficult than the payment that we just did. The ending balance you want to think about is what's really messing this up is that we are choosing those extra payments. If we didn't have any extra payments, I don't think there would be a problem necessarily, but it doesn't stop the extra payment. So you want to think about is what is our function for an ending balance? Well, our ending balance is the beginning balance minus the principal minus the extra payment every single month and minus the extra payment. So what we want to do in here is and I'm going to start this off, then I'm going to talk it through and you got to do the rest. So we want to open this up. And we're going to keep everything the same. D22 is the beginning balance minus the principal. That's going to stay the same. Minus this extra payment per month, specific month. Now, I'm going to keep that the same. And then what you want to do is I'm going to put my cursor right in front of that negative. And I want you to kind of think it through is that extra payment's 400. Now what we want to say is, well, what if we paid it off? Do we want to do a negative 400? So it's going to be another minimum function. I want whatever is left or whatever is less, but I want you to think about what is left, right? So I'm going to have the same thing we did before. And I want you to think about this is the extra payment. So I'm going to do a minimum function and I want to say is whatever is less. So for example, let's say we owe $50 and we're doing 400 per month, right? That 400 per month. So what I want to do in this function is say, well, after the beginning balance is paid, after the principal is subtracted out of the beginning balance, and after we do that specific month, if there's $50 left, I don't want to take the 400, but I would want to take only 50 of the 400. So what we're going to do is a minimum function. Whatever's less between that 400, then you want to hit a comma, and then you want to do, if you want to think about it this way, well, how do you know how much money is left? Okay, well, we just did this function here, right? We did the beginning balance minus the principal minus the extra payment. So if $50 left is from that, right? If we still owe 50 bucks, that means I want minus the minimum between this payment, however, only 50 is left. Well, how do you get 50 on there? Well, you do the same function again. So if you're subtracting the same function again, I could start this off a bit. So we're going to do minus the minimum, whatever's less. So if we owe, for example, $50, we're going to do that same function. So then what's going to happen is it's going to be the beginning balance minus the principal minus that extra payment in the specific month. And then it's going to take, right? Well, if we only owe 50 left, if we're doing an extra 400 per month, I want to take only 50 of that. So I'm going to take the beginning balance minus the principal minus the extra payment, and that would be 50. Therefore, it would pay it off. However, if it's more than 400, I want to take this payment. So it's going to be the minimum function. So I'm going to pause it. I want you to try it. If you can't figure it out, keep on working on it. It'll happen. So I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so I just corrected the ending balance. And again, what it's stating is that it's not going to take any more of that 400 once the house is paid off. Once we correct the ending balance, the principal is perfectly working. It's working perfect. So now all we get is zeros past that point. Now, I would like maybe blank cells. I thought about that. I was trying to do some things. Now, the issue I was running into is some circular referencing. So we'll just keep it like this. And I think this is a good model, how it's set up. So it's never going to take more than the 400 in our model. All right, now we have all that set up. The remaining of this video, we want to plug in this. And what we want to find out with our extra payments, how much money are we saving? That's what we want to figure out. So we're going to get most of this entered in, and then we're going to figure out, is investing on your property, put money in, well, how much are you making based off the interest rate? Is it a good investment? Right. However, we have to correct one thing. Is now I want you to think about it. Now our model will be, we want to make sure our model is accurate. That's going to actually do everything. And what we want to do is, if you're putting 400 per month, I want you to think this through. If you put 400 per month and you only owe 200, that means I'm only taking 200 of the 400 for that last payment. Therefore, what I did do before in this model was, if I wanted to calculate, well, how many extra payments do we have of that 400? Well, we would just take how long it took to pay it off. You can see it happen in the 12th month or period. We're saying quarter in this example. We did it in the 12th. So let me change things real quick. We're just going to make this a 1-year loan, and we're going to make 12 payments per for the year. So now I could talk months. So what we want to do here is say that, what if you only owe, hypothetically, $200? That means that $400 for the last month was really only $200. We didn't put 400 down. We want to know, what rate of return are we getting from all the extra payments we're putting into the house? That would incorrectly show the last payment. So what we want to do is, we want to find out how much did we actually put in for each month. So we can do this together in this example. So I'm going to do an if function. And again, I'm going to do what we did before. I'm saying if this is greater than 0. So if we are in that time period, we're going to do some calculation. That's all it's stating. And I'm going to hit comma. Okay, now what I want to do is another minimum function. We do a lot of minimum functions in financial modeling because it's much easier than if functions. And you could do an if function if you guys want to figure it out that way. So what we want to do is, I'm going to do whatever's lower, this payment per month, and I'm going to hit function F4 because I'm going to drag it down. I want to know, did we actually put money in there? And I'm going to hit comma. And then, so we're taking whatever's lower. I'm going to say that payment, or now we're going to do a max function. This is a max function. So I'm going to take it. I'm only going to take that value amount if it's greater than 0. And that's when we'll use a max function. So I'm going to say 0, comma, and then I'm going to take the beginning balance, and I could talk it through after we do this, minus the principal, minus that extra payment if we put it in that month. And then I'm going to close it up, 2 brackets, hit comma, and now we're going to do 2 quotes for the if function to close that up. And just kind of show what I'm doing here is that I'm calculating if there was a payment made, right? So I'm doing that 400, or comma, that's the payment we do every single month, or, and what we're doing here is we're saying the beginning balance minus the principal minus the extra payment. The reason why we're doing a max function is that this could be negative. Here it would be negative, right? If you go down, it could be negative. So I want to take only positive values. If it's positive, I'm taking whatever is smaller. I'm taking the extra payment every single month, or what is left for that last payment. So it's very similar to what we did before. So I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to drag this down so you can see what it looks like. And as you can see, it didn't go past that 12, which is perfect. And then also it's 0. So that last payment, we actually used the full 400. Now, if we only owed $100 left, it would take that 100 then in that example. So I'm going to go all the way down to, you know what? I don't think I did. Here's a good lesson. If you didn't do what I did in this model before, and I'm going to show you what I did, it will go down to over 1 million rows. That's going to slow down your computer. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go down to the, see, we're at K33. I'm going to hit K2000. And I'm going to go down to the 2000th row, and I'm going to hit space. And what that tells Excel, I'm going to show what it does. If I go all the way up and I hit control down, now it stops at that last cell that I put a space in. And that's what we want. So now I get to hit shift control, go all the way down, hit control D. It only stops there and it has our equation in there. So that's perfect. All right, now we can do our calculations. We want to know what is our total interest paid for this. So we want to know the total interest paid with the extra payment. So if we did an extra payment, how much interest do we pay? So we're going to go equals. Hold on one second. I got to make sure. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to go equals. And what I did before was a sum if function. We don't have to do that because we modeled our amortization correct, that it never goes past that point. It hits zeros. And what we want to do is calculate the interest paid. And this is going to accurately show how much interest we paid with our extra payment. So all we're going to do is a sum function. And I'm going to highlight the interest. I'm going to hold it down and then hit enter. So we paid $528 in interest. Next, we want to know, well, how many payments did we have with the extra payment, right? Originally it was 12. As you can see, we paid it off in the 10th month. This should have taken a year. We want to know, well, how many payments did it really take? So what we're going to do here, we're going to do a sum if function. I'm going to say sum if. And then I'm going to go to our balance, right? I'm only going to sum up the cumulative months. I'm going to sum up this only if this is positive. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to hit Control Shift or Command Shift on the Mac. And you want to go all the way down. And then I'm going to hit comma. And if you see up here, it says, well, what's the criteria? Well, we're going to hit quote. Some reason you have quotation marks. I'm going to say if this is greater than 0. So if there's a balance that we owe, I want to calculate how many months. That's what I'm saying. And I'm going to hit quote again. I'm going to hit comma. And now it wants to know, well, what do we want to sum up? Well, I want to sum up the ones here because I want to make sure that we have, we're going to calculate anytime this has a positive balance, we're going to calculate how many months. So I'm holding down Control Shift and I'm going to hit enter, and it perfectly did it. It took 10 months to do it. Next, total extra payments per month. So we want to know is what is the total amount of payments? We did 400 for 10 months, right? Because we paid it off sooner. However, we want to make sure we sum up this just in case if we paid a lower amount for that last payment. So we're going to go do the sum function again. I'm going to go to the sum payments. We're going to highlight all the way down, hit enter. And then that's going to tell us how much we put down, 3,600 for 10 months. And then next what we want to do is total in a specific month. We're going to do the sum function again. And that's if we did an extra payment. One thing we're going to correct here. What if we accidentally put a extra payment in the 36th month? If we did that, it's going to sum that up even though it had nothing to do with our mortgage. So to make this more dynamic, we're going to do a sum if function again. And we want to know the range. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm only going to sum up if this is positive. So I'm going to go all the way down, and then we're going to hit comma, and I'm going to hit quote. I'm going to show you up here in that formula bar. I'm going to say if it was greater than 0, if the balance was, end quote, and then comma, and then it's asking, well, what do I want to sum up? Well, I'm going to sum up these values. Again, what does that do? What it does, if we go to the model and we accidentally put a payment down here, if we had $1,000, we'll say, right? There's the 1,000. It's outside of our amortization, but it's not included in here now. It's only going to sum it up if this has a balance, so it ends on the 10th. So that's what you want to do, just to make sure there's no mistake. And the reason is because if it's way down here, you could have had a payment down there you didn't see. You forgot to delete it, and it won't give you the correct calculations. Next, what we want to do is sum up those values. We want to sum this up, extra payment every single month and a specific month. Next, what we want to do is how much interest did we save by putting the extra payment down? Well, what we're going to do is we know how much interest we paid with the extra payment. What I can do is go to the model and I can go, okay, there's total interest paid. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract out the interest paid here, and that's going to be our how much we saved. In other words, what we're saying here with this calculation is that's how much we made with all those extra payments. Next, what we want to do is, and I'm not going to show how I did this. Next, what I want to do is I want you to figure this out, and this is the last part. I want you to figure out what is the total return as a percentage and what is our yearly return. This is the year return. How much do we make for those 10 months? So let's go to this sheet right here. So to figure out what is the total return we got, well, it's very simple. That's going to be the what you made. You could say the income you made divided by what you invested. So you want to think about what values, what was that? So you want to think about it's our income we made, and that's going to be divided by invested. So in our example, well, how much did we make? We made the interest, right? We made that saved interest is good as making money. And then how much did we invest? Well, that's the total payments we put into it. So that's how you're going to get the total return. So let's call this return. That's our total return. Next, what we want to do is what is our annual return? How much do we make per year? That's important because everything's in years. We want to compare that. So what you're going to do here is you're going to say it's going to be 1 plus, might have to do equals. That's going to be 1 plus the return. So let me backtrack real quick. So if I'm going to do a little bit of interest rates here, and then you could try to figure out how do we go this route. If we were earning, let's say 10% for 4 years, let's say that's years. Now we don't have years, we have months, and we paid it off shorter than a year. So you have to really think that through. If we're going to do this, so if it was 10% total for 4 years, well, how would I figure out what was it per year? I would go 1 plus the interest rate. Hold on, let me actually do the calculations. I'm at 1 plus the interest rate, and then you would have to do it to the power of, right? We want to know what the per year was. We did it for 4 years, so it's always 1 divided by n. So I would do the power of 1, so we want to bracket this, 1 divided by 4. So if we knew we got 10% total return for 4 years, if you want to find out how much we got per year, oh, I forgot. And then you have to subtract out the 1. I always forget to do that. So what we earned per year was 2.41%. In other words, if we earn 2.41%, 1 plus this to the power of 4, that would be, as you can see, 1.1, which is 10. That would be 10%. Okay, so how does it help you? Well, what do we have here? We have our total pay, how many months it took. It took 10 months. And then we have periodic payments. We have to know the periodic payments. So the periodic payments was 12. So we know how many payments per year, and we know how much total payments there was. I want you to try to figure it out and try to get the total interest. I'll see you in a second. Okay, so I just calculated it, and what we have is we have a total return of 3.22%. And again, what is that? Very basic. It's what you made divided by what you invested. That's going to be the percentage we made. That's the total return we got. And now we want to know is what is our annual return? Well, we paid it off within 10 months, right? So you want to figure out it's going to be to the power of, want to do 1 plus this to the power of, and you have to figure out what that's going to be. You can play around with it. And again, to make it easy, it's the periodic payments and your total payments. So you can figure that out. That's how you get your average return for the year. And why is the yearly return greater than this? Is because it is the what am I saying here is that we did it within 10 months. So we paid it off sooner than what the total return. So it's going to be greater, right? If we paid it off within 6 months, it's going to be greater. So when you're looking at these calculations, you can say, okay, I'm going to get that return, but that return is total return 3.22 within the year. That's only for 10 months because you paid it off sooner. Now, if we go back to our model, and let's do a real house. We'll say 400,000. And then we're going to put $400 per month. And now we can see how much of a return that we got. That's very unique that it's the same percentage there, but all right, just to show you a couple things real quick. I was making a mistake. I kept it at 1 year. And the reason why the interest rate wasn't changing is because it's for 1 year. And that's what the payments were for 1 year for 400,000. So if you change it to a 30-year mortgage, 12 payments per year, 400,000, go to the amortization. You can see that the total return is 145%, and we're earning about 6.23% return based off all the interest we saved. It shows you when you paid it off. Shows some good stuff there. So last thing I'm going to do is I think we could plug in some stuff. We could say, okay, what is the total interest paid in this example? We can go to amortization. That'd be that number. We'll link that up. Total interest saved. You want to link that up to this here, interest saved. What is our return on our investment per year? That would be the 6.23. And then yield for how many years? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in this. That's our months, right? If I pull this in, it's not going to show it correctly. I want to know so I'm going to go here. I'm going to divide it by periodic payments. Well, how many payments per year it is. And what that's going to do is it's going to tell us exactly if we put a bunch of money in our house, we're going to pay off the house sooner, right? We paid off with almost 15 years. So I want to know, well, how much am I gaining on my return for how many years? Well, that's going to be good for 15 years or 14.8. The reason why it's important is because after the house is paid off, we're not earning anything after that. We just want to do by the time. If we put a lot of money down, we're going to save a lot of interest, but it's going to be paid off within a year. So that return is only for that time period. Months saved. How many months do we save? So we can go, okay, this is 360 payments normally, and I could subtract out 178. So we saved 182 months. Months remaining on the loan. And then that would just be a basic that minus this. There you go. We finished that up. Next video, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, well, what if we, the major assumption we're using is if we pay the house off within the time period, right? If we, I'm sorry, we're making the assumption if we put extra payments down, we're comparing it to if we put the minimum payment down and we held it to maturity. So making that massive assumption that you're saving this money, you're making this money if you lived in the house for 30 years. Well, we can't do that because most people live in a house 8 to 12 years. per house. So what we want to do is, well, how much did we really make if we sell the house early? And then the fourth video is going to be our sensitivity analysis. We're going to examine exactly how sensitive it is to interest rates. God bless, and I'll see you next video.